My name is Marian, by the way. I'm the founder of Engineers Community. And today I want to welcome Dusan, Senior Engineering Director of Platform. So Dusan, if you can please take your seat. And big applause for Dusan. Woo-hoo. Then the never-ending buddy, Richard. Where are you? Richard is coming from Muse. Richard is a platform tribe lead at Muse. And then we have Thomas coming from May.com as a head of platform. Woo. These are the three guys that will talk no bullshit, no theories, no books. These are the guys that have tried it, built it, that have broken the platform and then rebuilt it from scratch to scale. Because I think this is what we want to hear. We want to hear the true stories and the things how it works for us and for you as well. So with no further ado, before we move to our panel discussion and the questions, and we prepared the questions purposely in the order of making sure that it tells you a story that you can remember. And I remind you, please, the call to action after ending the meetup is, of course, having a drink and expanding your network. But the most important thing is to end up with at least one idea that you want to implement in your company tomorrow regarding the platform. Please take that in mind. Perfect. So I think we have the Slido already registered with you. And moving on to the theory, because that's why we've met today. So the number one question for you guys, and I think we can start with Thomas today, with the round one, which, and I demand you to be honest, which is, what's the difference between the platform engineering and or whether the DevOps is just sort of rebrands platform engineering, or you see some sort of meaningful distinction between the two. So the turn is yours, Thomas.
Thank you very much, and hey everybody, once more. For me, everybody knows it's probably a set of practices, but many people know it under the term like teams. And in my experience, I saw it actually as a team composing of many engineers with various functions, from access management to development to releases, testing, etc. And in many companies, it was handled differently. But for me personally, how much it differs from the platform is that platform builds product. And it focuses heavily on engineers and on their needs. So if you imagine speaking to them, understanding their needs, understanding their bottlenecks, and trying to build value that empower them in the end.
Richard? Perfect. Moving over to you.
Yeah,
Richard?
I would see the similar, that like culture, that DevOps is basically like a cultural movement to close the bridge between development and operations. And platform is basically one way how you can sort of implement it in the company, of making the internal platform, the product, to make the life easier for the engineers to own their code in production, and by providing the tools, providing some good practices, and giving them some foundation on how they can do that.
So what you are saying is it's about building the outcome faster at the end of the day. Okay, perfect. How about you?
I wouldn't repeat like what my colleagues said, but I would use a very popular term these days, shifting left. So DevOps is to me like shifting operations left, right? So the developers are, as Thomas said, working on releases, on operating the product in a lieu of like you build it, you run it. And platform engineering is basically productizing DevOps, right? Like creating products that are tailored for the developers, so they don't need to reinvent the wheel like each team doesn't need to.
Meaning we might end up selling our internal platform to other companies, right?
Exactly. I was thinking about it.
And some companies do that, right? So I think we have a couple of examples here as well. Okay, perfect. So that's the introduction about the platform in real and the DevOps as a culture. And now moving to the weeds of what it really is about. So regarding the wins, can you please tell us or share with us the ideas that basically have driven you towards adopting the platform engineering in your organization? So maybe we can start with you, Richard.
I don't know completely because I wasn't at News at that time.
Yeah.
Because our platform is like 8 years old roughly. But it started roughly when we were at the size of 50 to 100 engineers. And it started from the needs of the developers, that like there were some pain points with getting to the scale of having like multiple teams working in the similar or same repository and needing to deploy kind of the same piece of code. They were basically like quickly getting into some pain points that they had during that. And I think like the platform basically started with one engineer splitting away from the product engineering part of the org and starting the platform and just starting automating some of the toils that the engineers dealt with and that he experienced himself, but then also started to talk with other people on like what are the next steps and started to kind of build up the platform at News.
Okay.
But it basically started from the pain points of the engineers, and it started when we were around 50 to
50 plus
engineers.
Yeah. Okay. How about you, Dusan, please?
I'm relatively new to Ataccama as well, so today I asked my boss Dagi, like, what was the reason of
Nobody remembers
establishing platform engineering at Ataccama, and he said basically Ataccama used to be was box software, and we are moving to SaaS. And we didn't want these teams, the SaaS teams, to reinvent the wheel and do various things like differently. So that's why the platform engineering was born, to do some of the platform services centrally. That's one reason, and the second reason was also a product requirement that the product needed to be cloud agnostic, so running both on AWS and Azure. So we are also providing SDKs for cloud native services, so that feature teams don't need to think about whether they are calling an S3 on Amazon or an equivalent on Azure.
Nice. Okay. How about you, Thomas?
My story is different. I joined Make to establish platform engineering, and the reason was there was already existing team of DevOps people, and they were the one handling everything. So you can imagine you want to deploy a new feature, new change, you need to call DevOps, or you need to create a ticket. Do you want to grant access somewhere? Yeah, it's DevOps team. And we understood that with that mentality, we cannot grow, we cannot be as fast as needed. And in such a way, we introduced what Dusan mentioned, shift left, or even promoting the responsibility of you build, you run it. So first of all, we needed to understand what scopes were in part of the DevOps. And in such a way, we try to understood how to achieve full shift left enablement and building the platform engineering organization.
Okay. Now down to the question, because I want to get you sweat, which is not part of the formal agenda, which comes to my mind, which is why not to buy the whole platform? I mean, the platform as a software. Especially, of course, I understand you are having the SDKs. That's a different situation. But how about News, for example?
This is a good question, and there are definitely products like WorkOS that are being kind of spinned up. But I think you will naturally get to a problem that the system is not adapted to your context, right? And every company is different, and maybe those products can work well for some smaller companies. And it also depends a lot on what type of product you are building. But I think one of the best advantages you have with having the platform internally is that you have the people who can actually talk with your engineers and understand the pain points, understand the specific needs of your company, of your situation, and basically build a platform according to your needs than having something out of the box.
Yeah. Is it aligned with you, Thomas, please?
Mostly, yes. What is for us important is also understanding how to build a platform, like the product, right? It's different mentality.
Yeah.
And this is very specific when you use WorkOS or something like that. But internally, you need to understand your customers.
Perfect. Cool. So now counting down to the chase, moving to the third round, which is really measuring the success and how we can do that. If you can please expose a couple of, let's say top 2 metrics that you use for measuring the success of the platform as such. Because I know, for the product that we all know it's pretty, I would say, more easy to come up with some sort of outcome measurements and the factors why with the platform it might have an indirect impact to that. And I might be saying, platform in terms of the head force costs me too much. So what's your argument against it, please? Are you capable to talk money regarding the platform, for example? You go first.
Perhaps I'll start with the metrics.
Okay.
Because I'm a big fan of the X-Score 4, which is not 4 metrics,
Right,
which is
right.
not 3 metrics, but 4. But I will just briefly describe them. Actually, I have a developer survey running now in Ataccama, asking about these 4 metrics. So the first one is about speed. That's number of pull requests created or merged that you are author of in a certain time period, let's say 30 days.
Okay.
The company that created these metrics, it's called the X, and they are saying nobody should measure it on an individual level, right? Because number of pull requests is very similar to lines of code, which is 80s or 90s.
42.
So it's more about on average, on average, the whole organization or the whole team. And as many of you are developers, really the number of merge pull requests is correlated with the speed. So that's the first one. The second one is something called Developer Experience Index, which is calculated from 10 or 15 questions ranging from whether you have focus time, whether the documentation is accessible, or whether you are confident to release, and so on. There are 10 to 15 questions like this. Then you compute the developer experience score or index from this, and the company is providing you benchmarks. So saying you are a tech company with 100 to 200 engineers, and the P50 or P75 percentile is 60, right? The developer experience index. And they are also saying that if you increase it just by 1 point, you are saving on average 10 hours of engineers' time per year, which doesn't seem much, but if you multiply it really by number of engineers, you can then basically show to your CTO, for example, that you are missing certain amount of points to the benchmark. You can calculate it in terms of money, and then you can advocate for a certain investment again in your teams. That, I don't know, for example, 30% of the roadmap would be dedicated to developer experience.
Okay. By the way, how many of you does know the X4 metrics as such for the company itself? Might have a couple of hands up, right? Okay. Perfect.
So just to finish off very quickly, then the third one is about quality. That's change failure rate, which is also from DORA.
Yeah.
The number of or the percentage of changes that cause some incident or are basically faulty and need to be rolled back. And then there is fourth metric, which is impact, which you will particularly like. That's basically percentage of time spent on roadmap or on developing new capabilities.
Yeah. Thank you for raising that. By the way, can you expose what's your index currently at Ataccama?
As I said, I have developer experience, developer survey running. So I haven't calculated the exact score.
Okay.
I had just intermediate
So
numbers, and it seems there might be some case for an investment into developer experience.
Okay.
I will still see how that pans out in the end, but at least I can support it with real numbers.
So basically what you are saying that you can calculate a return of investment, if I'm correct, because by the amount of time saved, but potentially, that's the metrics that you want to apply.
Yes, and if I repeat the developer survey again in half a year, it should theoretically increase based on hopefully if it goes down, I'm out of work.
Becky knows. Okay, perfect. So how about you, Richard? Because I know that the platform is working for a couple of years already at Muse. So how do you calculate the right metrics that are the most meaningful and impactful for you?
Yeah, I guess as everyone, we use DORA for kind of the basis. Because like in the end, platform should enable the product engineering part of the org to ship faster and ship safe, like with basically safer, faster and safer. And Dora is measuring exactly that, like how fast you can get the code to production, but also like how you are balancing that with the quality aspects of writing the code and shipping the code. We also use something like the DX score, but we are measuring basically like just few metrics in the qualitative way. So like we are asking the engineers, we also run the surveys on quarterly basis, and we ask some specific questions that we are interested in. For example, one of them is like how much time do you think you spend per week or like you waste per week due to some inefficiencies?
Nice.
So if you see there is like on average 2 hours saved, that's kind of easy math to then do with the amount of engineers that you have and how many engineering hours you saved. But there are also like some specific metrics or like hard data that you can use, which is, for example, how long it takes to merge a PR, right? Like that's one of the key bottlenecks of like developing software. From the start that you open a pull request, how long it takes you to merge it and to get it to production. Again, if you like cut 20% from that, on average, you can again do some simple math to at least demonstrate briefly how that translates to some ROI for the org.
Yeah. I remember we had one of the SLAs, which was regarding the merging time. I believe it was 95th percentile, like the two-level code review has to be accomplished in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So that's one of the tips that we might share with you, I guess. I like it very much. Okay, so how about you, Thomas? Your top 3 tips, please.
Many of metrics have been already set, but in our case, what wasn't as uninterrupted time of engineer. So meetings versus actually focus on deep work.
Focus time, okay.
Yes, because what's the problematic part is that your day might be so split into small chunks of deep work that you actually are not able to do anything. So for us, it's very important to understand also how much of focus time is indeed focus and deep work and how much is spent on operational, either like back, talking to customers, speaking internally. We need to understand that. That's very crucial.
Okay.
And you actually had a question about the costs.
Yes.
And for us, and even from previous work at Product Board, it was interesting to also observe like how much efficiently we use tooling. So for instance, now you have many AI tools such as Copilot, Cursor, etc. And many people are interested in obtaining licenses, but not using it. So for us, we were also interested to measure how much do we spend per various tools to understand also what makes developers efficient. Because from platform perspective, it's also important to focus on like paid path.
Okay.
So offer the best capabilities. And if there are some like deviations, it's fine. It's up to teams or up to individuals. But as platform, you are very limited size. So it's good indeed to focus on what makes the engineers most empowered.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, maybe the one thing that I'm sort of surprised I haven't heard yet, which is because I guess the product engineering teams are your customers by definition. So are you asking your customers to some extent how happy they are and to what extent with the platform as such? Is there some specific metrics that you are using?
Like not specific ones, but like as I said, the developer survey is not just about the Score 4. I have questions about like what are the top 3 things that would boost your productivity, like rate your satisfaction with certain like areas of platform engineering, and also the one Risho mentioned about like how wasted effort or like what's the efficiency toll of like using the platform.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, Richard.
Yeah, the same basically. Like we have, as I mentioned, we have some key metrics that we are measuring through the surveys in a qualitative way, and that's the time wasted, but also like the satisfaction score in general, like how would you rate experience and where are the bottlenecks for you.
Okay, perfect, amazing. So with that in mind, moving on to the round 4, which is sort of opposite, meaning is there any metrics that you have completely abandoned because it was like misleading, even counterproductive? I know it's a thought-provoking question. How about you, Thomas?
Perhaps it was bug SLO because
bugs SLO. Okay.
Yeah, bug SLO because At the very beginning, we had many bugs and we didn't know how to properly triage it. So we needed to reinvent it to sort with different metric to understand how much serious the bug was to even get traction of engineers, because engineering time is very valuable.
Yeah.
And firstly, it was very wrongly set. So we tried to make it slightly different to understand indeed the priority based on the comments and based on the problematic. So how to do assessment properly before setting any SLOs.
Yeah, so basically what you are saying is it's much better to, first of all, investigate the priority of the bug as such, and only then to start, measuring the SLOs and the duration.
Sometimes it's bug is like feature, right? So
yeah. And the amount of bugs, I guess that's just the output, while maybe the support issues, that's the outcome, right? So yeah. Okay, Richard, your story.
One recently that the much from the audience will know is that I guess in every company, or like in many companies, one of the parts of the platform is design system, and we wanted to measure like how the design system is adopted in our products, and we originally came up with the idea of measuring kind of the opposite of measuring how much design system is not used by basically just seeing and measuring what is the amount of the custom styles being developed by the product engineers, which is sort of okay, but the kind of gap that it has is that it doesn't tell you when the design system is adopted actually more and when the adoption increases. So it doesn't tell you, hey, like you are on the good direction. It just tells you about the violations. So we dropped that metric and we reworked it so that now we have like really kind of the end user perception of like how much percentages of the certain screens are made of design system and how much of those screens are made from something else. So yeah, that's one example.
Yeah, perfect. How about you, Dushan?
I was thinking about like whether I really like abandoned some metrics, but I can tell you like metrics that I'm not a big fan of, rather, which might sound controversial, but for example, DORA, like if it is only DORA, not like paired with qualitative metrics, it's just like measuring the last mile of delivery and not measuring, for example, the impact, right? So, or Richard mentioned pull request review time. Like in 2 previous companies, we bought those like expensive tools that are that connect to GitHub or GitLab and show you all the plethora of metrics related to pull request, like merge time, like who reviewed whose PRs and so on. And it was great at the beginning. Like I really liked the graphs and everything. I even shared it with my engineering managers.
Okay.
But in the end, like we stopped using it because like it was good to see like the data, but the data many times weren't actionable. Like you couldn't do anything with it. Not with obviously if you have a long merge time, you can like go and ask the team to do code reviews like before or after lunch in the morning and so on, but it wasn't actionable. So we in the end churned, and I spoke with a few people that were using these tools like LinearB, Swarmia, or at the times we were using Athenian, which was a similar tool, and they are saying like many customers are churning because of this. So
perfect.
No, then they tend to be quite expensive as well.
But maybe just to quickly react, like I totally agree, and I think that's one of the key things that the founder of the DX tool, Abhinoda, is highlighting, that like you never want to rely only on the quantitative metrics, only on the kind of hard data you can get from GitHub or from your REEs or something else. You always want to balance it also with the qualitative insights that the people are telling you. And actually, like they are highlighting, like what the engineers tell you is actually usually more accurate and more descriptive than DORA or whatever, or something else. So like if DORA is, for example, kind of uprising and indicating that your process and everything is going well, but the engineers are frustrated, that's a very strong indicator that something is actually wrong, and you should address that.
I like it very much, and I want to add something on top of that, which is I see very often 2 cases, which is the companies implement these specific tools as LinearB or DORA or Jellyfish or whatever that is, You see the pull requests and so on and so forth, but it doesn't tell you much. Because why to have a highly performing team if we work on I would say shitty hypothesis, or if we work on things that are out of the roadmap, right? So it doesn't tell you much. So before I will have to say, first of all, let's see how much of the time the team spend on the roadmap, and only then let's start to see how efficient they are, because that's usually the root cause most of the time. The second thing I want to highlight is some sort of an extreme case. If a company does it, please run away, which is connecting these KPIs towards your bonus schema. I bet you maybe some of the companies is trying that, or you've experienced it yourself. It's a dangerous game, because exactly as Richard was saying, these are indicators, not some sort of a hard data metrics. So you really need to pay attention to that. Otherwise, people end up to gamify things, and you end up having your epics and increments accomplished not in months or weeks, but in 3 days for some reason. So yeah, that's the reality of things. Perfect. Thank you for being very honest here as well. Feel free again to send more answers if you haven't done yet. Amy, how many questions do we have?
Okay, a couple of questions for you. Let's do like 3. And the most upvoted is, isn't DORA the old-fashioned way to measure DX? A lot of companies left that few years ago. What is your opinion?
I can start.
Didn't we cover that already? Like,
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Or Tomáš, you can start if you want.
Partially, yes, but I want to give an example when it makes sense, because even Dusan or Richard mentioned some parts of how they use DORA, and in our case, we successfully established the platform engineering, but we were shifting from the old-fashioned model of release trains, so releasing once per few weeks, and actually starting to focusing on continuous delivery. And in such a way, we needed to back by data that we are not going to increase number of incidents or decrease the reliability of platform. And in such way, DORA was very useful, right? Supported by many changes, small changes, frequent changes, and with showing that we are not causing many incidents, or actually there was sudden drop of incidents, which was supportive. So in such a way, DORA is still not old-fashioned.
To expand on that, I think also, like as we mentioned with Dusan, it's like you always need to connect it with also the qualitative insights. So I would say DORA is still like solid foundation. Of course, you have the space framework and other new ones as well. But this is the solid foundation that gives you kind of some level of insights. But you need to also connect it with the qualitative insights from other people or from the customers actually, and yeah.
there is still one metric in the X-Core 4 from DORA as well, change failure rate.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I hope that whoever asked this question, that it was answered properly. And the next one is, when is the right time to start with platform engineering? And can it be decided by numbers, e.g. 30 engineers? What is your take? Dusan, you can start.
So what was the last part of the question?
If it can be decided by numbers, e.g.
Numbers of
30 engineers.
Okay. Yeah. So actually, I have a fresh experience. Like I was head of engineering in a Series B startup, like around like 30 engineers, and I was trying to like grow the platform engineering. I had an infrastructure team of like 3 people, and they were building a platform, right? Like in a proper sense so that the developers could like, I don't know, create pull requests and so on in a self-serve manner. And then I was trying to expand it to developer experience. So basically creating another team. It's just like 2 engineers. But in the end, after a few months, it collapsed because the priorities of the company were like elsewhere, and I needed to use those engineers elsewhere, basically on product, right? So it depends on, in my opinion, on the state of the company, like where you are, whether you are like just finding product market fit or so. We probably are not fit to start with the platform engineering, or if you are small. In my opinion, like where it starts to make sense, it's around like 50 engineers or so.
Perfect. Thank you for the number. That's helpful.
Yeah, I would say also that the 50 is like, or the number of engineers is like a strong indicator telling you when you should start considering it. But at the same time, I would highlight that like, ideally you want to start with platform in a place or in a stage where you know that there are like some pain points that are kind of applicable to all the engineers or majority of the engineers in the company, and you want to address those pain points. You shouldn't start from just because you are a certain size or because it's kind of new kid on the block. No, yeah, like you should start when it actually starts to make sense. So yeah, that's one thing. But also second thing, I would say not every company would need platform or internal platform. I would say that, for example, the CDN77, one of the kind of companies in Czech Republic as well, like you all the engineers working there need to have such a good understanding of the internal low-level detail of the networking layer that like you simply cannot abstract that any like much from them anyway, because like that's what they are literally like needing to know. So I would say that it also depends on what sort of company you are and what sort of product you are building.
If I can add anything on top, is understanding whether the leadership supports the change, right? It's also about mindset shift on product, focusing heavily on engineers as customers, running interviews. And sometimes it's very like investigation and deep work in understanding how your customers use what they need. So that's for me is very important, because even in an organization of size like 200 engineers, they might not need platform because there is no support for product in platform.
Thank you so much, guys. One last question, and then we continue with the panel.
Yes, please.
Okay. How to create a viable ROI for a platform engineering initiative? Next question is, how do you measure achieving the expectations, and how often you reevaluate the cost per value? There are 3 questions. You can choose only one if you want. The first one?
Yeah. If it's meant for like the overall platform, like building a case sort of for starting with platform in your company, then I would say start writing down or start preparing some sort of roadmap that you will do with the platform team. And that should be probably based on the pain points that your engineering teams are experiencing. And based on that, you can then start with like some simple math of like saying, hey, with like this project or this piece of roadmap item, we would look at optimizing this certain flow by 10%, and that could start giving you an indicator of like how much ROI you would get for the whole idea. But again, I would say like starting from like specific pain points that you want to address and building up from that would be probably a good idea.
I would treat platform initiatives as product initiatives, basically. Like if you are building platform as a product, you should have success metrics as well, like in each initiative. And it could be just like a hypothesis, as you said, like it would increase by 10%. And as with product, like many of the product features are also bets, right? Like that it would bring such an amount of revenue, for example, and you don't know at the beginning. But like with platform initiatives, it might be the same. Just like look at the, as you said, pain points or some engineering productivity metrics.
Perfect. So I think we are good with the 3 questions. Not sure if you want to add something to that.
We are also focusing on costs. So that's very, very important metric in terms of how much it's going to get, like cost on additional money on tooling or on maintenance even. So that's important to take into consideration.
Nice. I like it very much. By the way, sometimes when somebody asks you, like, give me the use case in ROI, you might start considering using different metrics or different approach, which is the cost of delay. I think you might know the term, meaning how much it costs me by not having a certain functionality or being delayed. That is much closer and much easily calculable for convincing, for example, the executive board to invest into something. You might want to look into it. The cost of delay, it's calculated by the CD3 formula, I guess. So yeah, that might answer your question as well. Perfect. So I think we are in a good shape. In the middle of our conversation, we have 4 last topics to cover. Are you still in a full shape and in a good mood? Okay, perfect. So let's make it work. Moving to the number 5. If you can please, again, for the sake of transparency, share with us like one of the most painful lessons you've learned while scaling the platform, or what was maybe your hypothesis at the beginning, which was sort of stretched and destroyed and shredded, and then you have to rebuild it, which might cost you some amount of time. Nevertheless, that's part of the game and the lesson learned. And please be very open here, because you might be saving a couple of months to our audience. So, Thomas, maybe I'll start with you, please.
For us, it was security, like compliance, right? Everybody wants to have the immediate access everywhere. Everybody wants to debug everything immediately. Even in cases like production, that's something what is very favorable by many engineers. And with introduction, some of the rules for like change management, for security scanning, for time to resolve some vulnerabilities, indeed the productivity may decrease. But finding the balance is very hard, right? In some cases, it was about testing, but what level of testing or what code coverage we want to introduce in particular code base. And this was very crucial for us, and we are still investing in understanding what is the right balance between security and between productivity.
So what's your approach today?
We need to follow the compliance. We are compliant like SOC 2, ISO 27K, probably others are coming on the way. But for us, we try to understand how to get the most value to engineers ASAP. So like privileged access management to enable more engineers approve someone else's access request and not limit it to a very small group of people, or misuse even on-call team to access it. Or, for instance, I can give another example. For accessing production, you can track it as emergency changes, so you can get, or you can have smaller group of people who have immediate access of elevated privileges, and then backtrack it in kind of like emergency changes. So this is for us important, how to like find a slight way like loop to enable engineers quickly resolve some of the problematic parts, but backtrack it properly to be still like secure and compliant.
Okay, perfect. How about you, Richard? Your stories.
Yeah, 2 things come to mind. First is that we started the platform, as I mentioned, basically by one person splitting away from product engineering and starting the platform team, but they were originally a backend engineer. And when this is written or using primarily C#.
You mean Honza?
No, not Honza actually, or to some degree potentially you can argue that it was Honza. But I want to say that like we originally started the platform and the whole team, which had like 8 people, which was like very C# heavy. Basically, every single one of us was a former C# engineer, like backend engineer, and the whole platform took shape of actually like being very C# oriented, and we provided a lot of the tools and code. But as we grow or grew, the whole RT grew, we started to realize that like we are looking for like really specific talent in the market. Like we want people who are familiar very well with C# and the .NET ecosystem. We want people familiar with Azure, that is our choice of cloud. But we also want people being good at kind of the operational level, like being good at observability tools, and the list just went on. And we realized like we are looking for people like that are basically known on the market. Like we just have too many requirements.
You need specialists.
Platform, platform become like quite a problem. So that was one pain point, and second pain point that came to mind. Well, I will need to remember, so maybe Dusha.
I can go. So one painful lesson I learned, it was like a couple of years back in a company. It was early Kubernetes days, and we decided together with the CIO that we would change our infrastructure to be like Kubernetes enabled and microservices running in Docker. So that was a big infrastructure project. I was managing it together like with the team that was building Kubernetes observability stack, like all the things like from the ground up.
You customize it on your own, basically.
It was like before EKS and before the AWS had had Kubernetes as a service. So there were open source tools back then, like that allowed you to spin up the Kubernetes cluster, but it wasn't like custom made, but we required from the feature teams to Dockerize their services, and I was really struggling to persuade the product managers and everybody that they should like invest into it, because there wasn't a clear ROI, like why we are doing this. Then after a few months, I coupled it basically with the organizational change, because back then the whole company was working in that like developers and operations, developers developing, operations deploying, 2 weeks releases. So I said, okay, we are not just like doing Kubernetes for the Kubernetes. We are going with continuous delivery with teams deploying by themselves. The CIO, it's himself, even though he suggested Kubernetes, his head almost exploded because it was the whole infrastructure was like his castle.
Okay.
And he didn't want anyone to deploy the changes apart from his department, the operations. Then I found an early adopter in one team. I was able to persuade the CIO to go with it. And in the end, like the project took almost 2 years.
Wow.
But the whole company shifted towards like continuous delivery.
Left.
And I had a presentation on a company offsite and so on. But the lesson I learned is to show the business value early, right? Like the business value of continuous delivery. I was advocating of a quick turnaround of bugs and quick turnaround of features and so on. Like especially if you compare it to 2-week cycle that the company previously had. So if it is some like big project, think twice about like the business value.
Okay, understood.
Yeah, and I know about the second point, which was about making the platform sort of responsible for the availability of the whole system. Muse started as this monolithic C# code base, and platform team became responsible for the infrastructure of the system. And it's not truly a platform engineering team if you are responsible for like availability or like some SLOs of the system or something like that. Because platform should enable actually the engineering teams to own their code end to end to production and provide the tools and provide the guidance on how to do that. But they shouldn't be the ones owning the infrastructure. They shouldn't be the ones owning availability of the system and other numbers or metrics. So that's something we still kind of deal with today, but I would say that's another learning point for us.
So it was a painful lesson, you say?
Sorry?
So it was a painful lesson.
Yeah,
to some degree. Okay.
I can add on top. It's very similar to Richard, and it's about justifying why some part of platform is not functional, like why some code doesn't have the certain code coverage level, or why there are so many vulnerabilities in a certain part of code base, right? It's not part, or it's not the responsibility of platform. Right? Platform should be the one bringing the metrics and observability, but the teams need to be able to justify why it's in such shape.
Okay. And now to the big question, again, which is not part of our previous deal, towards our speakers, which is, do you really think platform for you as a company is a differentiator? What do you say? Is it helping you? Is it slowing you down? Do you kill the competition because of that? Or is it just yet another toy which makes no sense and wastes money?
I don't have insights into how the engineering team of our competition looks like, but I would say definitely. Like, I think it's one of the key reasons why Muse was able to grow so quickly over the last 5-6 years. So yeah, I think the platform played a crucial role in that.
Perfect. Dusan?
I would say Ataccama without platform engineering would be dead already. Like since the product is like so platform heavy as well.
Yes.
So we need platform engineering, and from like previous work, if you get the platform engineering right, even like with the developer experience, it's a competitive advantage. Like people who were leaving from various reasons, not because of platform engineering, were telling me, "Oh, Dusan, I will be missing all the tools and everything that you build here because I haven't experienced it elsewhere." So it's really can be a differentiator.
Yeah, perfect. Tomas? how it goes with make.com?
I would say it would be nightmare of incidents with each release. Like it was sometimes even connected with, yes, there's going to be release, so another incident. And the platform actually shifted completely with a perception, increase availability, reliability, and even accountability in the teams. And that's very important for you build it, you run it concept.
Okay, perfect. So we are all staying in agreement and full agreement that basically platform ends up to be basically company differentiator, helping us to basically compete with the market. Cool, amazing. Okay, moving back to the formal part, product versus platform. Let's be honest, we all face the situation that sometimes the product engineering teams are not really keen or sometimes resilient to adopt a couple of new platform functionalities and toys that we provide. So how do you make sure that the adoption gets there, or how do you basically constrain the some sort of opposing ways of that? Thomas, your turn.
The key aspect in changing of adoption for us, or not thinking there's something constraining, is to find your fellows, is to find your buddies in other teams and understand how to bring the functionality there, like test it and see the value. In different way or in different form, it could be get into your customer shoes, right? So we get into team and understand how they are going to use your platform. That's very important for us. So we use something called like missions. So we combine people from our team with product teams and understand what we develop, how they are actually able to use it. So that's for us very important. And in such a way, if you build a small successes, others are going to follow, and that's for us very important.
So basically, you're saying you create some sort of evangelists coming from the product side and making sure that the adoption is there,
and try to find cases in which you can success and show the value. That's very important.
Dusan, your turn.
So sometimes the resistance to change is natural, like
yes,
as the teams don't or individuals don't want change. So in that case, I either like speak more about the change, or better, like what was my experience also with what I described with the continuous delivery, to find early adopters, like promoters of your feature.
Yeah.
So that feature can, like, it's not just like top down or saying platform is saying this is what you need to adopt, but also from within or from bottom up, right? Teams like talking with each other and saying, oh, this new feature from platform is great, it enables us to do XYZ. And if it doesn't, then you probably haven't built a good feature, right?
Yeah.
But, so that's one thing. The second thing is that, from my view, platform engineering should provide some like golden paths, or some like prescribed ways, like how
blueprints.
And if you want to go off path and you have a good reason to do so, then go ahead. Like if it is like in normal ways, like, I don't know, not starting writing Ruby if you are a Java shop, or I don't know, right? So if it is in a good reason, then do so, and perhaps it will become a blueprint once if more teams adopt it, right? Another thing that I wanted to share here is something I call adoption principle. It's like related, but many times platform engineering need to roll out the change to all teams. And instead of like exposing or communicating that this change needs to be like implemented or done on feature team side, if it is a change that has low value in like learning, so that teams don't learn anything. Like an example, you have a Helm chart and you need to change a value, I don't know, change replicas from 2 to 1. So I then advocate to do it centrally, like prepare a pull request for those teams, so they just like merge it and you save time on coordination, because like coordinating 12 teams or 15 teams, it's a nightmare. I just like prepare it for them because it's easier for you to do it like in an hour and a half or so. And then those teams just like review the code, obviously, merge it and release by themselves.
Okay.
So just related, but I wanted to share the
That
principle.
completely makes sense. Okay, Richard, your turn.
Yeah, agreeing with the early adopters with the golden path.
Yeah.
So like not to repeat that, maybe just to add on that, I think that's kind of the whole idea why you hear the kind of buzzwords of like platform as a product. It's like the product part is really emphasized that like you need to talk with the customers, you need to like understand what are the pain points, what are the needs, and I think it's like quite easy to get into this mentality of like, yeah, I used to be a developer, I know like what we need here, and then you want to roll it out, and the engineers actually tell you like, no, this is not what we need. This is not like something that we would like. So yeah, I think that is one of the key reasons why you really need to treat the platform as product and talk with customers and really understand the reasons to have that.
Having said that, the root cause is basically talking with the customers, right? So it's a similar thing to owning a product, platform as a product, talking with the customers, gathering their submissions and their ideas, and then measuring the adoption rate, basically, right? So that's what we are coming back to. Perfect. We are coming almost to an end, which is good news for us. So moving to the round number 7, that goes towards growth, because we all know as the company grows, what are the things that you have to rebuild completely, let's say, after, what you were to a certain size or to a certain functionality, and then you had to sort of rethought or rebuild it. What's your experience in there, Richard?
Yeah, one specific case comes to mind, and that's our SQL migrations framework. That's something that the original platform team spent quite a long time building, and the idea was that we wanted to achieve like 0 runtime migrations. So whenever we will deploy a change that had the migration in it, and we use the code first approach with entity framework, we basically split the migrations into 2 parts, and kind of the breaking migrations and non-breaking migrations, ran just one part of them, and the breaking migrations had to wait until the code was deployed across all the services that we were running, and then the breaking migrations could happen. But yeah, it's quite a beast. And there is quite a lot of logic in there of doing that. But it definitely we definitely outgrew it. That like today we are seeing some pain points because of that, and we are moving away from it. So it served us well for some time.
It's a proprietary solution, in other words, right? So,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good example. Yeah, Thomas, how about you? What's your experience in that?
For us, it was understanding how to, because our architecture is mostly monolithic or distributed monolith, because it's dependent on one database. But the new functionality was mostly built, or it should be built completely independently, right? It shouldn't be like necessarily microservices, but should be more isolated from dependency on database. And bringing there the continuous delivery was very challenging, because even though we intentionally wanted to bring continuous delivery per each service, actually they were coupled in database. So that was for us very tricky in a way how to bring continuous delivery in a fashion that it's indeed independent development or deployment of each service.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Your turn, Dushan?
From my experience, usually like when engineering is small, like the development and testing is done either like locally, and you run, or even like when the product is small, you run all the services locally, and you can test. Then you probably have someone have a dev environment where like these people like me then and test their changes. And when the engineering grows even more, then suddenly you start having that dev environment as a bottleneck. So you either start investing into that local development or into some mocks, which happened at Ataccama, that we had we have something called local development stack, the whole Ataccama running on a laptop. It eats all the CPU and all the memory that
with
you have,
of mocks.
Even more. With some computers, like you can run Zoom and these like LDS. So in many companies, even like previous companies I've worked for, it usually went to remote development environments. So enabling developers to test and develop quickly on remote and basically connected your local development stack to that remote as well is something that usually needs to be reworked or rethought because like you haven't thought about it at the beginning.
Yeah, so it goes down all to the case of the product and the technology side of aspects growing, right? And you need to keep up with that aspect. Okay, perfect. I believe the very last thing, and please pay attention on this one. If you could give us one single piece of advice, to running the platform well, what would that be? What do you think of that, Richard? Please.
Yeah, I would say kind of keep in mind that your primary job as a platform team or platform organization is to help the product teams and help them deliver the value
not yourself
and safer. Because as I mentioned, I think already, like it can be quite easy to get into this mentality of like building some technical masterpiece of like trying to obsess about every single detail and like kind of lose track of the actual value that you are bringing. And then you can start realizing actually how like we over-engineered something completely without actually first understanding the actual need behind it, actually having the early adopters, doing some prototypes in the beginning, etc. So I would say like, yeah, if you are too focused on the technicalities of the platform, that's a bad indicator. And also being comfortable with sometimes having to acknowledge that what you have built is not suiting the needs, learn from that, and just be comfortable throwing it into the trash and start again in some ways.
Similar to product management, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Your experience on us, please.
To me, I mentioned it previously, but get into your customer shoes, right? Indeed. For us, it's very similar. We built no-code, low-code platform, and we need to use it internally to understand how platform is painful or what bugs we have, to understand how our customers are feeling. Platform is very similar, right? Indeed. Understand how engineers using our platform, what constraints they typically tackle, and be with them, understand them. That's very important.
Okay. Dusan?
Yeah, I would just double down to what Guy said, basically, because it's very similar, like really like building the platform that your customers love instead of like hate or are forced to use, because that's my experience from like previous companies as well. As we said, it could be a differentiator. So when it happens to me, like even like these days, I happen like my previous like coworkers, and they are saying, "Oh, something we built the platform, it was great." So that warms my heart that we built something that people remember even after years being out of that company.
Yeah, perfect.
Or maybe also to expand on that a little bit, I would say also encourage or allow contributions, but maybe even encourage contributions from the product engineers. Like they know how they are using the product, they know what are the pain point with your platform. So encourage the contributions, encourage additions from the engineers, because like again, if you are stuck in this feeling like this is our technical masterpiece, this is our like beloved child, and no one outside platform should touch it, that's again like a strong indicator that you are doing something wrong.
Perfect. Cool. So I think we've covered the main pieces, and now going to our audience, back to you to basically coming to the main question with a couple of winners, hopefully. If you can, ladies and gentlemen, share your thoughts, your tips and tricks and recommendations that really help you with the adoption of the new platform functionality in your company, I would be more than happy to hear that piece of advice with our speakers. So please feel free. We will not might use Slido for this point of time. What's your experience in there, please? What helped you to adopt the new platform functionality in a meaningful manner? Do you have any experience with that? Yeah, I will just put you the mic.
So it was a small effort, and it was what already was mentioned. So having some sort of like an early adopter community and include them in the platform design as early as possible, and also having everything open for contribution, so it's fully transparent. So engage the people as soon as possible and build the momentum based on their success stories, not on your wishes.
Perfect, thank you. Any other practical piece of advice? How about you?
So I'm from Rovi, and we have a slightly different story because we are a small company. We have only 45 engineers, and we actually have a platform team, which is a platform team and also server backends engineers. So it's kind of mix, and they own everything behind the API gateway up to cloud. And we have a small infrastructure team, which used to be part of this one platform team, but now it's reasonable to move infrastructures out. And hopefully we are going that way, that we will divide the actual platform backend team into 2 teams. So we are somewhere in the middle of the way to the platform engineering. And I think the real divider is, let's say, 50 or 60 people. It depends if you are more SaaS company or more product company. But you said 50, I said 60, so that's probably the magic number.
Well, I think I'm very happy that you mentioned the platform as a product. I think before starting any platform initiative, if you want to do some internal market research, like with any product, you would first figure out, I mean, it's stuff that you have already mentioned. First, figure out what are the real needs and pains. I want to give you a tip and trick of what not to do, because I made this mistake. Some of you may have seen me present at the conference, and I was very proud to tell the story of Dynatrace on our platform. But years ago, I was also on stage and told the story about how great we are, but I was actually overselling it years ago. And I had people in the audience of our engineers that said, Andy, what stupid things are you telling? This is not the truth. So you need to sell your successes, but don't oversell it, because then you lose credibility. And the worst is if you lose credibility internally, because then nobody believes you anymore. So never sell anything that it's not true.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Andy. How about you, Patrick? You have maybe a couple of topics on this one, because I know that there might be questions about like whether to buy or build, these sort of things. So your turn now.
Very fair. Thank you very much. I'm from Code Now, so we are selling, and that's such a platform which is a product.
Yeah.
And thanks for having this opportunity. I think the speed of introduction of this platform didn't play too much of a role, maybe, but we are meeting these days customers who are not having too much time. This is something which I think needs to be addressed as well.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. And the last piece of advice, we have Peter from Dynatrace, or me from the Deep Note, so maybe.
Just to build it and run it, it's the key thing to have in mind, because it's enabled ownership from the day one.
Yeah.
So that was the concept we started at iSport 16, 17 years ago, before even this was a good standard and a recommendation.
Yeah.
And second one, already mentioned, know your customer, because you can avoid a lot of dead ends and stupid ideas. You can focus on the things that really matters.
Yeah, perfect.
One advice might be is it's very hard to understand what product needs. And you really have to find the sweet spot between what they need and what they want, because sometimes it's not the same thing. So you really have to hit it very hard in this central point and provide exactly what's needed and wanted.
That's a very good example, meaning like if an internal customer says he wants X, we really need to translate what it really means. That's a pretty knowledgeable lesson learned. Yeah, thank you for that. Perfect. So I think we have 3 winners in this case. So we can handle the things right now, or what do you say? Okay, so perfect, guys. So please feel free to grab your prizes that are coming, or we can basically share it with you. So we can start with you, Thomas. Basically, Matusz. We might share it with you, and if I may kindly ask you to basically cover that piece as well, and we'll make it work with us together. So thank you for that piece to make it work. Cool. So we are approaching to our end, and thank you again for your tips and tricks and collaborations. I really appreciate that. Do we have time for the final round of questions, please? What do you say? Or do we want to close it?
What do people say?
I guess we can go through a couple of, I would say 2 to 3 Slido questions, if that's okay with us. And we can move forward regarding questions for our speakers. So if you can grab the Slido and coming back to us.
3 questions? Okay. The most upvoted one. There are 2 most upvoted ones. How to make sure that platform team doesn't become just another department of a company, another department or company within a company. Apologies.
I guess you need to speak with the customers, promote your work, show the impact. It's not about like us versus them. That's another like mentality that sometimes I see with platform and product. I realize like why you are in the company. It's to build the platform that serves the product and brings value to everybody.
Show the impact you do and also contribute to the company business, right? OKRs or whatever company needs to develop. It shouldn't be just focusing on engineers, but you are there in company as one team, and it's important to contribute there together.
Yeah, I agree with what was said.
Perfect. Okay, another one. We know that CI/CD is key. I only know one CD, so I don't know what is this, but okay. There was a study at ByteDance. They compared build time to review plus merge. What do you think of that?
Can you repeat the question? The second part?
What do you think of that?
But okay, so there was a study at ByteDance that they compared build time to review, so 2 times, and merge. What do you think of that? It was our spec. Do you have any
Isn't
opinion on
ByteDance
that?
owning TikTok?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
But I guess like it would be interesting to know if like who wrote it. What was the result of the study? They compared to metrics, but what did they found out from the study?
I had to compress it because Slido was short message. So this study was about how long does it take to build and possibly check the preview environment to review time, and if it stays for a while. And what they found out is if it goes over like 30 minutes, the pull request can stay there for like 5 days. So they invested in RSpec a lot, and they already saved millions in dollars just because of developer time.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. Like I think it also relates to kind of the idea of just trying to have the loops in the system, because like with for example like introducing a bug the code in the picture, like to fix the bug or catch the bug is like when you are still writing the code, right? Like running the test locally or rig some stuff like that. The second best time is like when you are on the PR and some other colleague catches that, or the CI/CD pipeline catches that, because you still have the context of like what you have in what you wrote. If you get it deployed to production, then like there's the third time to catch the bug. Once you deploy it to production as ASAP, like understanding, and that's again, there is a need to be able to deploy to the production fast enough so that you don't start working on something else and lose the context of the original thing. So like if you wait a week to deploy code to production or a month, you will definitely move on. And then once you deploy the code, you found out that there is you start or you need to get the code again, and it takes time. That you will likely not catch the, or will probably be reported of the bug like by customer, and someone else will be troubleshooting that, but it will take like exponential time. So like the idea is, yeah, like the time to debug a problem is basically like an exponential curve, and the later you are on the stage, like the more expensive it is. So yeah, this makes complete sense, at least in my opinion.
Did that answer your question? Perfect. Okay, guys, we have 21 more questions. So what we are going to do is I'm going to send them to you after the meetup, and you will answer them at your own time. What do you say?
All right.
Let's try.
Okay,
I
so
like
you can write a couple of more if you want. We can make it, 50. So all good, all good.
I would say the best way is to answer that right away, because we'll be having our networking. So that might be the right spot to answer your detailed questions. And now coming to the final, moving throughout the Q&A. For your interest, we might have meeting ourselves in I would say 3 weeks at our 27th meetup that we will be holding together with the University of Economics. And basically, this talk will be quite interesting for you, I guess, because we'll be talking really about how to enable learning in your organization versus the never-ending backlog of work and deadlines, and how to deal with that, how to convince the management to allocate certain amount of time, and if that's the case, how to use the time in the best manner, because a couple of people think of Udemy and Coursera. I think there are far, far better ways how to use this time as opposed to hackathons or something. So we want to expose the whole portfolio, or Disneyland, the way how we call it, so that you can think of your own way to basically use this allocation of your time properly. Perfect. By the way, within Ataccama, if you can see, as each and every company grows, in Ataccama, we are still looking for a couple of open roles for the software engineers and principal software engineers. So please feel free to reach out if something. And you can see the QR codes, of course, or reach out to me directly and I'll let you know what's going on. And basically, that's about it. So we are coming to an end. So thank you to our speakers. Thomas, Richard, and Dusan. And again, big round of applause for yourself, please, because you have coming here to see this event. Thank you for that. And thank you to Ataccama for giving us the time and this nice, amazing venue with all the orchestration and the demands and the people in the audience, to our core group, to Amy, Thomas, and basically others. And I hope to see you all together at our next meetup. So please be part of our mission, share our thoughts, make sure that you take some specific call to action for the next day you're coming back to work, because now it's after Easter.